Some stories are more important than what's trending in YouTube's algorithm, and this is certainly one of those stories. And I absolutely hope I do these two justice. What would you say if I told you 2 women have now passed under this man's roof and he is walking free? And it gets even odder when you start adding in the accusations of abuse, lost and damaged evidence, odd behavior, and the blue code of silence. Well, this is exactly what we're going to talk about today. And if an open conversation is something you prefer, then this is the place for you. Welcome to The Point, so let's talk about it.
Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Nonprofit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use.
It seems when you start looking at Robert Daus, you would say he's the type of person who has it all. He's a captain in the fire department, well liked and respected in the community. His family owns a very successful side business called Liberty Artworks. He drove a sports car and had everything going for him. And I do imagine it would be a lot of those things that led both Grace Holland and Sarah Sweeney to fall in love with him. It was January 13th of 2024 when Sarah Sweeney passed away. Sarah is described as a vibrant and outgoing person who never met a stranger. She loved all animals and even rescued and owned several over the years. She was a doctor who owned her own private practice in Creve Coeur, Missouri, and according to her family, she had no injuries or illnesses that would be considered life-threatening. Now, on the surface of it, you would think that that is not necessarily abnormal. And things are odd when you add in the fact that her family says they haven't spoken to her in 2+ years, and her passing is being classified as a sudden passing only. They are currently awaiting the toxicology report and other investigative material to determine the cause of death. But what causes a woman who is seemingly positive, outgoing, never meeting a stranger, to completely alienate herself from her family? They were talking to her about Rob's past, and this is where things get even weirder. Because before he was in a relationship with Sarah, he was in a relationship with Grace Holland. Now, Grace is described as a petite woman with deep brown eyes, a glittering smile, and a perky demeanor. Her sister Laura said Grace was a police wife through and through. She had a profound respect for law enforcement and even was a police explorer as a teenager. She held a degree in criminal justice. She was actively supporting several different first responder groups. She was highly active within the community and highly supportive of her fiancé. So what happened to Grace Holland? The police say they found her with a single wound to the head, and they classified it as a self-passing. And when the 911 call came out, a lot of people kind of threw their eyebrow up and said, hang on a second, why is this guy so calm? How is he being so collected? The natural response is, when you think about what a first responder deals with, they do get desensitized to a lot of tragedy that most people would overreact to, or at least have some sort of reaction. But since he is a first responder, the family said he rendered no aid to Grace Holland at all. So you would think that somebody who has seen a whole lot of injuries like this would be able to quickly react and make attempts to save somebody else's life. But that does not seem to be the case according to Grace Holland's family. And would you also not think it's odd that she is a right-handed individual who primarily trained weapon use with her right hand, but she was found with a single wound to the left frontal lobe at a downward angle according to the family? So is this a situation where the Creve Coeur police just sort of dropped the ball on this investigation, and because they dropped the ball, now another woman has also passed several years later? Or are you now seeing this as a situation that some are calling the blue code of silence? And that term, of course, refers to the fact that police look out for police, first responders look out for first responders, and everybody just kind of works together to watch each other's backs in hairy situations. Now, what has added fuel to the fire is the other accusations that go along with this. It has been said that Rob had an affair with both men and women in his relationship with Grace Holland. There are also multiple accusations of both physical and mental abuse. The family had said that Grace would often be seen with bruises on her arms, and during phone calls she would be a little shook up, and when they would try to tell her about this particular situation, they say she insisted she could get them help. And one of the ways she was going to try to do this, according to the family, was she was going to start recording their interactions. She was going to record how Rob would treat her. But the family had said the day she showed that recording to Rob, it would be shortly after that she would be found with a single wound to the left side of her frontal lobe. Now, where things continue to get dicey is the family is also saying that the vast majority of this evidence that the Creve Coeur police said they would hold and they would look at has now been lost or destroyed. Now, I did try to see if I could find anything where the Creve Coeur police would make a statement replying to any of that, but I couldn't right off the bat. But I do want to be fair here. I was able to find an interview where law enforcement said they had an eyewitness who said they saw her with a firearm in her lap and she was crying, and that they used that witness along with what they found at the scene of the crime to come up with the determination that this was a self-inflicted passing. But that does now circle back to that original question. What is going on here? I understand he's a first responder, and I understand the optics of the situation when you start talking about first responders. You don't want to think the worst of the people we put the most trust in. And I'm not accusing him of doing anything, but if there was evidence proving some sort of domestic situation, why was he not questioned? The only witness to the situation that happened with Grace Holland is Rob Daus. He is the only one who is a witness to what happened to her. So it would almost seem whatever he says goes, correct? Now, I was able to uncover in some court documents supposed conversations between both him and Grace. And it was supposed to show what their daily communication would be like. And I won't show them here because those messages are absolutely heartbreaking to read. And it would be all this situation that led to the separation of Sarah and her family. Because according to them, they brought all this up to her. They would say, hey, you're in a relationship with this individual, but he has this in his past. And I would wonder if that was just a situation where she was insisting nothing else was going to happen, that was all an accident. It wasn't his fault. And the constant arguing about it just caused them to separate. Now, Grace Holland's family had said that Rob encouraged Grace to quit her job so she could work for the family business, and he only did this so he could maintain control of the money and control of her. We don't have any reports or anything saying that he had done anything like that to Sarah Sweeney, but it is awfully odd that two individuals under this man's roof have now passed. It does at least seem like there is now an active investigation into Sarah Sweeney to see what happened. I know for a fact Grace Holland's family has been pushing for this since this story broke January 13th. If this is a situation where he is found at fault for the passing of Sarah, he should absolutely be reinvestigated for the passing of Grace Holland. Because when a person you care about suddenly passes away, your first action is not to remove all existence of them from your social media. Now, Rob Daus has came out and said that he wanted this relationship over, that it was over long before any of this had happened, and he didn't at any point in time want to be married to Grace. But if that was the case, then why were they together the day of this passing? Why would they not be separated? It's an absolutely tragic and heartbreaking situation. And I do hope both of these families can get some sort of closure. And an investigation can be done to find out if anybody was at fault. Of course, as always, we're not accusing anybody on here. We're just raising questions and telling a story. And it is, at the end of the day, an absolutely heartbreaking story. If you see any of these things differently, you can let me know down in the comments below. Other than that, I appreciate your time. I appreciate you being here. Y'all stay safe. I'll catch you in the next one.